I have no idea what's going on with the lighting in this video, but we're gonna run with it because, yeah. And my lipstick is already transferring to my coffee cup. That's rad. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Again, consistent uploading schedule. Who is she though? I wouldn't know a consistent uploading schedule if it hit me with its car, and that's why I'll never be successful on here. Hey. I have no idea what that was. We'll just ignore that. Anyway, like most folks in 2020, I was inside 98% of the time, and this led to me getting a lot more reading done than I normally would. Well, technically they were audiobooks, but they still count. Anyway, so yeah, audiobooks are kind of a gamble because the audiobook either isn't available, like they haven't made it in audiobook form yet, or the narration is just garbage. And I'm not about to dismiss a book because of poor narration. You know, if I hear good things about a book, I would much rather read it and judge the quality of it for myself rather than completely dismissing it due to poor narration. But I do prefer audiobooks because I can do other things while I'm listening. Audiobooks are great just because I can listen to them while I'm doing my artwork, which is what I've been getting into the habit of doing. I kind of alternate between like listening to audiobooks and like watching YouTube videos. I also really like listening to audiobooks while doing my like embroidery and stuff like that because I'm an old lady. This video is not sponsored by Audible, but hey Audible, what's up? So yeah, I'm gonna go over the books that I absorbed into my consciousness over the span of 2020. They're very varied, the topics and themes and genres. Genres is the word I'm looking for. The genres are very eclectic and they're not necessarily all new releases. Like, I took a lot of time in 2020 to kind of catch up on older books and books that I had, you know, meant to read but hadn't, or books that were maybe a few years old that other people recommended to me. So a lot of these aren't going to be super duper new releases, but there are a few kind of just smattered in there. But yeah, let's go on to the book review. Woohoo! Yeah, this isn't going to be in chronological order. This is just going to be in like an order. So the first book is Killing Commendatore by Haruki Murakami. Haruki Murakami is one of my favorite authors, just like of all time. I absolutely love his writing style. I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So this book is about an artist who is going through a divorce with his wife, and his friend is like, hey, I have like a house in the mountains that belonged to my father, who's in a retirement home, and he's not well enough to take care of the house, and I'm not available to do it. You can stay there rent free, you can, you know, paint, you can sort your stuff out, just, you know, take care of the house. And the guy's like, great. He goes, takes care of the house, he meets a bunch of people, and weirdness happens. And the opening line of the book is like, it just hooked me. It hooked me. It was like, it just started off, he's like, I woke up from a nap and I see the faceless figure, the faceless man sitting at the end of my couch. I'm like, what the fuck, Murakami? I like this book because as an artist myself, I liked the commentary about not being able to do the kind of artwork that you like as a career, because it is, most of the time, it's not as desirable or like consumable by the public, and you're like resigned to doing like portrait painting or like caricatures or something like that. I'm not saying that like, you know, portraits and caricatures and all that stuff isn't valid. Like, it is. Like, you know, it takes a certain level of skill to do it. And I'm not saying that like people who do that are not skilled, because they are, you know, in ways that I'm not skilled in doing things. But yeah, there are people who do specific kinds of artwork that are like, oh, well, I guess I have to do this to make ends meet, or this is the only thing I can do like within my field because I don't want to do something in another field. And that part really resonated with me. So I like connected with this character on that level. So going on to the writing, Murakami has a very distinct style of writing. I can understand how a lot of folks might find his writing tedious, especially when it comes to describing day-to-day or mundane tasks. Admittedly, this does drag in a few places, but he has this habit of being normal and kind of boring and suddenly slapping you with something insane. In a way, it kind of lends you the feeling of what the main character must be going through, doing something unordinary day in and day out, and then suddenly getting shaken up. And that really does come into play here, because he'll be doing stuff like, you know, describing his day-to-day, everything, and all of a sudden something just completely metaphysical happens. Like, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but he all of a sudden, like one night he hears somebody in his house and he realizes it's like something completely improbable noble, and it's pretty great. Like I really did like that. I love Murakami and his writing, how it's slightly metaphysical and weird fiction without being contrived or pretentious. He very clearly knows what he's doing, and although some of his writing is slightly formulaic, I always get attached to the characters in some way. So there's also a character in this book named Maria, who's like a 13-year-old who comes to get her portrait painted, and something I did not like about this book is the way that the main character kind of described aspects of Maria's appearance, and that made me very uncomfortable, and that's kind of like in my list of things that I did not like. Some scenes did drag very long, even for me, and I was listening to this in the audiobook, and I'm just like the narrator in this book, on the audiobook, was great. Like that's no fault of that, but there were some scenes that did drag a little bit longer than I would have liked. And the fact that the main character has an affair with a married woman with children did not really sit right with me. I don't know. Stuff I did like: world building, character development, cool existential dread, accurate feelings of being in a relationship that is ending. The way that he was written and the way that he like described his marriage ending felt very realistic. Like it wasn't like this overly drawn out, dramatic, bombastic, like, how could you leave me? Ah! It felt kind of like this almost like resigned feeling of sadness, but also kind of acceptance. And it was really well done. This book, it was a 3.5 out of 5, solely just because there were some weird descriptions of underage characters that made me very uncomfortable, and some of the scenes did drag, but overall it was really great, and I really enjoyed it. So the next book that I'm going to be talking about is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Oh my god, this book gave me feelings. This is a 4 out of 5. So basically it's about the son of the president who has like this chance encounter with like the Prince of England, and they have to like form like a fake friendship, and it is very much so like an enemies to friends to lovers kind of thing, and it's so good. It's so fluffy, and it's so fucking cute. Oh my god. I didn't think I would like this. Like, I'm not a romance novel reader. This was great. This was so good. I actually had moments like during this book, like listening to it, where I actually laughed out loud, like full on laugh. Also, reading this during the election year hit so different. It's very apt, especially, you know, with our incoming president and the first like female vice president. This is obviously a work of fiction because in this book, Nevada's votes were called very early. So towards the end, I was legit reliving election week, and that threw me. Like it really did throw me, but it was written in a way that had like just the right amount of tension, and it was really, really good because you were like, oh my god, are they actually gonna win? Are they not gonna win? Because there's like a whole like kind of scandal going into it and everything. Yeah, it gave me a lot of feelings, and there were just enough pop culture references, one, that were current enough for me to understand, and they were like peppered in, and it gave the interactions just a little extra bit of flavor. Like there wasn't much that I did not like about this book. Oh yeah, so what I liked: dialogue that didn't feel forced or contrived, like a lot of, you know, enemies to lovers or just romance in general happened. Fun mixtures of emails and tweets combined with classic literature in their emails. Oh my god, them sending poems to each other. Oh, good male bisexual representation, which you don't see very often. I feel like bisexual representation is criminally underutilized as a whole, but male bisexual representation is like even more underutilized. I feel like if a character in media is going to be bisexual, it's usually somebody who is female or female presenting, and you don't see a lot of bisexual men. And honestly, like, people need to like step their game up and we need more sexualities represented in media. But I feel like people who are bisexual are like criminally underrepresented in media. I really did like the bisexual representation. There's like one of the characters is bi and one of them is gay, and that's fantastic. Is this like a great work of prose? Is this like a masterpiece? No, but it's fluffy and it's cute, and it was what I needed. Like, it's what my aching, world-weary soul needed. So I'm really happy that I read this book. Okay, the next book that I read was My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced her name. I really am. I'm so sorry. So earlier in the year, I read Eileen, which I'm going to be talking about a little bit later. Right off the bat, this author has such a wonderful way of writing characters that are just so flawed and so so fucked up and just so unlikable. Admittedly, this character was a lot more likable than Eileen. Eileen was just like, oof, but I really liked the way that she's written. So this book kind of entails a girl, she's an unnamed protagonist who's basically like, you know what, I'm gonna take a year and just kind of exist. I'm not gonna work, I'm gonna just like exist in my apartment and take these drugs given to me by my very, very seedy psychiatrist and just kind of figure out what the fuck I'm doing in my life and, you know, just take some time to kind of reset. And honestly, I kind of feel like that was all of 2020 for a lot of us. Like, what are my plans? Like, what am I doing with my life? She has a friend, and I like that she mentions having a friend who's in her life solely because they have history together, and I feel like everybody kind of has one of those friends at one point in their life or another. The writing of this reminded me of Chuck Palahniuk, kind of in the era of Choke, like Chuck Palahniuk's like early works. Very bleak, but also very like cynical, like cynically, like tongue-in-cheek, just bitingly, darkly funny. And it's very much so like bringing forth like the flaws of the characters and like humanity and everything. Yeah, it really reminded me a lot of Chuck Palahniuk's writing, like that kind of like just sometimes just really brash, like in your face, like what the fuck, like kind of writing. And I love how blunt and painfully real her writing and characters are. The one thing I did not like about the book was the ending. And this book is set like in 2000, like the year 2000 in New York. So, certain events that kind of shaped the history of the world, specifically the US, hadn't happened yet. It's touched on very, very briefly, and the ending of the book kind of, it felt kind of rushed. Like, it sort of felt like the characters sort of did what she needed to do, and that's it. And I felt like that could have been drawn out a little bit longer, but I understand why the author might have opted to keep it short. I don't know. The ending kind of rattled me a little bit because it was so abrupt, but other than that, like, this was great. Like, 4 out of 5. I fucking loved it. Okay. Whew. The next book is The Devil All the Time by Donald Ray Pollock. 5 out of 5. Jesus Christ. Okay, The Devil All the Time, like, so the plot of this book is these interwoven stories of these folks in this small town and how they eventually culminate. Like, I love stuff like that, like where it's like separate storylines eventually coming together and they all have like impacts on each other. This is like written in a small town. In small towns, everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows the goings on of everybody. Like, oh, hey there, how's your mama? How's your daddy? Etc., etc. Like, I didn't grow up in like a small town, but like I was surrounded by small towns where like legit like everybody knew each other, and it's cool, and it's also kind of weird that everybody is always up in each other's business, and Donald Ray Pollock captures that so well in this book. There's like, you know, religious fanaticism, there's just all different kinds of mental health fuckery, like there's no like perfect character. Like, even the protagonist is like like weird, but like there's no character that's like obviously meant to be like the shining beacon of goodness in this town. Like, everybody is so flawed, some more deeply than others. Oof. Oh my god. Like, I will just say, like, the whole arc, my lighting is changing, sorry. The whole arc that involves like the new preacher coming to town and what happened with the sister, that, like, I was kind of bothered by a few parts of this book, but I wasn't like, shaken to my core. But there's like a specific scene involving the sister that I had to like step back for a minute, because I was just like, I was rattled, and it just kind of got worse from there. And this book hit so many visceral gut punches, and I 100% do not regret giving it a 5 out of 5. I fucking loved it. I haven't seen the movie yet because there are certain scenes that I do not want to see played out. I hear they got an amazing cast, and I feel like that's like the only reason that I would watch it. And I saw who played like the creepy preacher guy, and it's Robert Pattinson, and I'm like, oh, I love Robert Pattinson, but oh, I don't want to see him play this role, but I want to see how he plays it because he's so good of an actor. And yeah, Devil All the Time, Donald Ray Pollock, 5 out of 5. I literally wrote, what the fuck? Amazing world and character building. The last part got me fucked up, which it did. Oh my god. Woo! Woo! So the next book that I read was Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This is another, I have beats for books, and this one hit it pretty well. This is another, like, you know, enemies, not even enemies, just like sort of strangers to friends to lovers kind of thing. This is about, the main character's name is Luke, who is the son of an old rock star. You know, he tends to show up in tabloids every once in a while because of something that he's doing, and he also works for like a nonprofit about like supporting dung beetles, which I think is kind of funny. One day he's like photographed like, you know, face planted in a gutter, and people are like, hey, this isn't really a good look for our, you know, our nonprofit. Maybe you should consider getting yourself a boyfriend, or getting yourself like a fake boyfriend to kind of keep up appearances. So he meets this guy named Oliver through his mutual friends. Oliver's like a barrister, like a lawyer. I liked their relationship development. Like, it was written in a way that you don't see in stuff that I've read in my very limited reading of romance novels and stuff. Their relationship developing was written in a way that was actually very believable. So I wrote, the relationship between him and Oliver is developing in a way that feels genuine, but in a romance novel kind of way, not in an IRL kind of way. Because I feel like if you were fake dating somebody, if you were very lucky, sure, like, you might be able to find a relationship like this and have it develop very quickly and very naturally, but it doesn't always happen like that. I also wrote, I like how the main character, Luke, is very aware of his self-destructive behavior, and like, he's written in a way that is very flawed, and the flaws are brought up a lot throughout the book. I like that it's written in a way that is like both him and Oliver like have a lot of stuff to work through, and they go about like working on themselves and developing feelings for each other in a way that actually does feel realistic. Like, he's like, oh, you shouldn't be fake dating me because I'm a mess and blah, blah, blah. Like, Luke is saying, like, you shouldn't be fake dating me, and Oliver's just like, well, okay, are you gonna work on your stuff? And then, you know, Luke is just like, well, you have stuff you need to work on too. And it's like, they like fight, and they, you know, pretend break up, and then they fight and pretend break up, and they get back together, and it's like, it's very messy, but it's very compelling, and it was really fun to listen to and to get like sucked into that world. Like, I really liked it, and I read this after Devil All the Time, and I really needed fluff. Like, I do this thing where I alternate between like really heavy stuff and then like really fluffy stuff, and this was absolutely the mood boost that I needed after Devil All the Time, because oh my god. Going a little bit into spoiler territory here, the ending, it worked, but it was kind of like, oh, for me. Also, the ending with Luke's dad, I'm reading from my notes, sorry. The ending with his dad felt like a cop-out. Maybe the dad could have acknowledged that he was scared of cancer, but now that he isn't dying, he wants to make up for lost time. But Luke hating his dad isn't going to change overnight. Still, I felt like he could have been like, well, that was scary. It isn't dad's fault. I'm still angry and I have stuff to process, but I think I can work this out when I'm ready to. And because the dad has cancer and he's like, oh, I want to like reconcile with my son and blah, blah, blah. And then when he finds out that it's like a cancer scare, you like never hear from the dad again. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of shitty. So I kind of feel like that was kind of but also like judging by like the character of the dad that's like in character, I don't know, that was kind of for me. So I don't think I gave this book a rating yet. I would say that this is like another 4 out of 5. It wasn't a masterpiece, but it was what I needed. It was like nice and fluffy, and it was good. So yeah. Next book I read was something on Audible. It was called When Harry Met Harry by Sydney Smythe. I gave that like a 2 out of 5. Like these two guys like meet on a flight. You know, there's obviously like this guy's so annoying, and this other guy's like, oh my god, this guy's so cute. And then like they happen to like fatefully meet up like years later with like their own stuff going on. It's like just like fluffy gay romance, and it wasn't very good. I didn't really like it that much, so I gave it a 2 out of 5. All right, next book, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. Holy fuck, this was a 4 out of 5. Jesus Christ. Okay, so this is actually one of the newer releases that I read. It is about a girl, half fae, named Bryce Quinlan, who is living in this, it's like an urban fantasy, and I love urban fantasies like so much. So she's like living in this city with her friend Danica, who is like a wolf shifter, and she and Danica are very close, and Danica ends up dying under mysterious circumstances. and Bryce is like carrying this guilt and this sadness of her best friend's death with her, and there's a whole bunch, there's like another character in it named Hunt, and there's like all these like different, like there's a lot of world building, and there's a lot of like, you know, hierarchical stuff and like who plays what in this society, and it's a great big info dump in the beginning, and it kind of shook me up a little bit, kind of took me a bit to get into, but it's so good. Like, this is awesome. I absolutely loved the world building. I absolutely loved the characters. Like, admittedly, I feel like Sarah J Maas only knows how to write a certain kind of female character, and that's fine. Like, you write what you know. Like, and also with guys, like, I feel like Hunt isn't as Rhysand in A Court of Thorns and Roses, but I feel like I like Hunt a lot more than I like Rhysand. I love Rhysand, don't get me wrong, but like I really loved Hunt. I loved his character, and I'm excited to see how they develop Hunt and Bryce's relationship in the stuff like moving forward. I really loved this. I had some stuff written, some like predictions written about Danica and like how, like the nature of her death and why she died. There was a character death in this book towards the end that actually made me cry. Not to like, you know, spoil too many things, but it's near the end in the gallery library, and it hit me hard. Like, it hit me harder than I'd like to admit, and oh my god, I actually cried. Like, I wasn't sobbing, but a few tears did come out. There's like a bit like at the end where they're like talking about like doing this thing called the drop, which is more more in depth than I really want to get into, but there's like this whole thing where like a character is like, oh my god, like, you're about to die, but you're being brought back to life. Why are you being brought back to life? And it's like, oh, it's because of love. And I'm like, wow, I'm getting a real big flashback to A Court of Thorns and Roses in the first book with Amarantha's riddle. So the only reason I gave this book a 4 out of 5 is because it is very formulaic, but in a Sarah J Maas kind of way. But I feel like Sarah J Maas has a way of writing that's like formulaic, but she has a way of just like creating characters that are just so like great, and like her world building and like characterization is just so awesome. Like, I'm not mad at it. So moving right along. So those are the books that I kept notes on. Those are the books, I think those are just all the books that I read like at the end of November and throughout December. So I'm going into the books that I read earlier in the year. So earlier in 2020, I listened to both The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. 5 out of 5. Despite it dragging in specific places, I would do anything for Ari and Elodin. I would do anything for them. They are by far my 2 favorite characters. Ari and Elodin have my whole soul. I love them both so much. Like, I love that this book is very much so just like a bard just living out his life. Love stories about bards, because I used to think I was a druid, but now I sort of feel like I'm more of a bard. But yeah, I really liked the development of the main character, Kvothe. I feel like he has this sense of haughtiness and almost arrogance about him, but I feel like it is very appropriate to have a character who is that age, like 14, 15, 16, to be that level of kind of like, I can do anything, and I feel like him just being really, really smart just like amps that up. And this is basically the story of, it's being told by like an older version of Kvothe to a guy named Chronicler, and they're sitting in this inn that Kvothe owns, and Kvothe's like, how about I just tell you my story? And Chronicler's like, fuck yeah, and was like writing everything down, and Kvothe basically just details his life about like growing up as like a, in a traveling circus troupe, and the murder of his parents, and him going to university to try to find answers about that, and forming friendships, and just going on a bunch of different adventures. And it's great. Like, I absolutely loved it. And I am foolishly holding out hope that the 3rd book is going to come out at some point. Like, at this point, I just want Patrick Rothfuss to just sort of be like, would anybody else want to write this for me? I really want the 3rd book, but I doubt that it's going to happen. I know there's like short stories that is written and stuff like that, but I've been listening to it actually as I've been going to sleep recently, because it's like a familiar thing, and it's so nice. Like, I loved these books. It took me about like maybe a month to get through, but I regret nothing, and I absolutely 100,000%, 5 out of 5, love The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear. All right, next book that I listened to was I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. Holy shit. Okay, I can imagine that reading this book would be one thing, but listening to the audiobook, especially towards the end, there is a specific part that I was listening to, like, even Even thinking about it right now is like legit giving me goosebumps. Like hearing it on the audiobook just added a whole different layer of anxiety and suspense and just weirdness. So this book is about this another unnamed female protagonist. She is going with her boyfriend. I think his name's Jake or something, but they're going to visit his parents. And that's kind of what I can say. Like everybody always says it's like, it's about this guy and his girlfriend going to visit their parents and shenanigans happen. And that really is like all you can really say. Like this book is so full of like subtlety and like so many like nuances that it's really hard to like talk about it without giving too much away. And I did watch the movie for this one because I did not know that it was directed by Charlie Kaufman, and that just made my film nerd boner just skyrocket. Like, oh my god, I love Charlie Kaufman. I watched it and I really liked it, but I'm gonna be actually making a video about that at some point because I have many notes about it. I will say that the ending of that movie, I feel like the ending of the book, I feel could have translated amazingly to a movie, but the way that they changed it in the movie, I feel like they changed it to have it make more sense, because the ending of the book, I had to kind of go back and listen to it another time to have it kind of make more sense. The ending of the movie, I feel, was a bit easier to swallow and easier to kind of piece together, but it was gorgeous. Like there were some parts of that movie that were exactly what I pictured happening in the book. Like it was masterfully done. It was great. Like the book and the movie, absolutely outstanding. There were parts that like legit, there were parts of that book I had to step back for a minute and be like, okay, this is a bit much. I devoured that audiobook in like a day. Like I was sitting here like just not even like doing anything. I was just sitting just listening to it. I was so into it. It was absolutely incredible. 5 out of 5. The next books I read were Spinning Silver and Uprooted by Naomi Novik. And it's not like a series thing. Like they're both, like Uprooted is like a standalone thing and Spinning Silver, I think, is a part of a series. I'm not sure. I really loved Spinning Silver. Like Spinning Silver, this is a very unpopular opinion. I enjoyed Spinning Silver a lot more than Uprooted. And Spinning Silver is about a girl who has like this moneylender father who is like in a whole bunch of debt. And she decides to kind of take over the money lending side of the business, and there's like a whole bunch of like interwoven stories, and she ends up lending money to Faye and, you know, sort of like suffering the consequences that go along with it. And there's also like a whole like storyline about there's like political intrigue and there's like a whole bunch of things happening. It was really good. Like again, it's another instance of like interwoven stories like coming together like at the end, and it was great. Like this is the first book I read by Naomi Novik. I was like, okay, I will check out Uprooted. And Uprooted is about a girl, I'm gonna butcher her name, I'm so sorry, I think her name's Agnieszka, who lives in this village, and every year there's this wizard that they call the Dragon, and he comes down from his castle and he selects from a bunch of girls to take back with him to his castle to fight against the woods. And the woods, it's like a bunch of like these trees. They're basically like fighting back against the village, and I'm like, oh my god, this is completely 100,000% like my kind of thing. And yeah, I gave Spinning Silver a 4 out of 5. I gave Uprooted like a 3, like a 2.5, 3 out of 5. There were so many marks that it missed, and I don't know. Maybe I need to give it another go, because I liked it, but it was almost kind of forgettable for me. Like it has like so many things that I would really love in a story, but I don't know. I didn't like Uprooted as much as Spinning Silver, which I know is like a really unpopular opinion. And like I said, I probably need to like go back and read it again. So yeah, Spinning Silver was 4 out of 5. Uprooted was like a 2.5 out of 5. Moving forward, next is 9 Princes in Amber by Roger Zelazny. This is a 3 out of 5. It's a fun little sci-fi sort of fantasy jaunt about this fella named Corwin who wakes up out of a coma, and he's like, who am I? How did I get here? And he like meets these people along the way and discovers that he is actually a prince of this place called Amber. And he kind of travels from like, you know, the modern world to like the fantasy world to kind of claim his rightful spot and like fight these people for the throne. This was like I said, a very fun, short little sci-fi jaunt. It's kind of dated. I think it was written in like the 70s or something. So there were parts of it that were a little dated, but it still was fun. It wasn't absolutely earth-shattering, but I really did enjoy reading it. The next one, another recommendation from Paperback Dreams. Your house is on fire, your children all gone. I'm gonna butcher this guy's name. I think it's Stefan Kishba. Anyway, this is like a gothic horror, like a gothic thriller horror kind of story about these people in, I think, Germany, but they are living in like this town that, you know, again, very flawed, no character in this book is perfect. They live in this town where there's like a bunch of like dark secrets, etc., etc. This one was, I liked it. I want to say it's like a 3 out of 5. Very slow build, which I don't mind. Like, I don't mind a slow build because it actually did kind of get somewhere. The ending was a bit, I liked the character building. I liked the world building. I liked the kind of just looming sense of just dread throughout it. And it was really well written. Like, I really liked it. Again, it's another one that I'm gonna have to go back and explore again because I sort of feel like I might have been a bit distracted while listening to it. So I do need to explore it a bit more. Like, I don't want to like write it off completely, but yeah, this one was really good. Moving forward, Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. 5 out of 5. So good. Absolutely wonderful thriller. I love, like, again, like it does have like elements of like Southern Gothic to it. And I really like that there's like all this intrigue and there's like no clear cut. You kind of figure out who it is like at the end, like it's kind of obvious, but there's a lot of really cool world building and like, you know, I like in thrillers and mysteries, you kind of like get to know the characters a lot more and kind of be like, ooh, is this person sus? Is this person sus? Like, eh. So this is basically about a girl, like a reporter who goes back to her hometown because there's like this weird like string of like murders that are happening, which involve like the victim's teeth getting pulled out. She has to go back and live with her mother and her new like stepsister and her stepfather, and it kind of like there's like all this like weird familial tension, and that shit hits so hard for me because reading anything about like just dysfunctional families is tricky for me because I have a good relationship with my family. So reading stuff about like dysfunctional families and also reading about like the main characters recovery from self-harm and like how people approach that was really well written. I really liked this, but yeah, I gave that a 5 out of 5. Next book, Pet Sematary by Stephen King, was a fucking 5 out of 5. Michael C. Hall narrated this and it was absolutely outstanding. I don't really want to like talk about the plot of Pet Sematary. I feel like everybody knows. Family moves into old house. Neighbors are like, hey, there's a weird cemetery in the woods. Don't fuck with it. And then shit happens. So this is the first Stephen King book that I've read. It did not disappoint. And I really, you know, Stephen King is like, this is like one of the most like terrifying books that I've ever written. And I'm like, all right, dude, like we'll see about that. And then I listened to it. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty creepy. And then there's a certain part involving a truck. And I'm like, oh, I am not a parent, but oof. That it was hard to read. Like, it's like fucked up family dynamics. Like, it was just really hard for me to read about that and grief and like what you will do in the throes of grief to bring back somebody that you love. It was wonderful, and I really do want to read more of Stephen King's books, and that is a lot of his stuff is on my list. So I think I'm gonna hit up the Dark Tower series next, but anyway. Okay, next books that I listened to was the entire A Court of Thorns and Roses series. Like, holy shit, like I watched a bunch of stuff I read with Cindy, and I was like, okay, these books seem kind of trashy, these books seem kind of silly, I might as well read them, because I know that Sarah J Maas is a very divisive author. Like, people either like love her or they hate her, and I'm like kind of leaning towards like the more like the love, because I really do enjoy stuff like this. Like, I really do admittedly enjoy kind of like, you know, fairies and like fantasy and like this kind of fantasy. Like, there were, you know, some smut scenes which were, you know, they were tasteful and kind of vanilla, but you know, they were nice, I guess. But yeah, I wrote down, I know this shit is divisive. Man alive, I am a whore for stuff like this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 because it's not like, you know, absolutely world shattering, it was amazing. But it was fun. I very much so enjoyed the narrations. I liked I liked the world building. I liked the descriptions of the different fae courts. I liked I just really liked it. I really loved the characters. There was a part of me that really did ship Feyre and Lucien. I honestly, like in the first book, I wanted Feyre to get with Lucien rather than Tamlin, because like Tamlin is like just being made up to be like this guy guy, like, you know, he is obviously going to be like the end game or whatever. I don't know, I feel like Lucien and Feyre just kind of clicked better together. And like, obviously, you know, if she got with Lucien, like she wouldn't have gotten, like, I feel like she inevitably would have gotten with Rhysand, but, oh yeah, the plot, sorry. The book, basically the plot is about this girl named Feyre who kills a fairy and has to basically offer up her life in exchange to the fairies and go live with this guy named Tamlin in the Spring Court as his prisoner. It's like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it spans across like 3 different books, but that's like the gist of it. Feyre lives with Tamlin. There's like this whole thing that happens at the end of the first book where she gets turned into a fairy. The second book, we find out that Tamlin is like completely unchecked with his PTSD and is like really abusive towards Feyre. Feyre falls into the arms of Rhysand, and she and Rhysand become mated and like love each other. And then there's like a war, and there's like death and lots of back and forths and flirtations and sex. And yeah, apparently this is like marketed as a young adult book, which I am shocked that it's marketed as a young adult book, but whatever. Okay, yeah, 4 out of 5. Loved it. The next book that I read, holy shit, I am losing my voice, I'm so sorry, was Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh. I gave this a 4 out of 5. This is one of the actual physical books that I have, but yeah, I actually have this book. My stepsister gave this to me as a Christmas present, and I like, it's a good length. It's very, very good. And it's also set in a coastal Massachusetts town. And I'm like, okay. So I kind of like immediately I understood the vibe that this character was kind of giving off. Like this kind of downtrodden, like lower middle class, just blue collar character. And I'm like, you know, I'm not trying to say that, you know, all people or all characters that are in that demographic and bracket should be written this way, but like the way that she was written was very much so New England to me, like very cold and very kind of like, you know, like Eileen has her own reasons for being the way she is, because like basically this book is about the main character, Eileen. She lives with her alcoholic father in this decrepit house. She works at a prison for young boys, and one day she finds there's like a new hire to the office. So yeah, this new woman comes in, she's a new counselor, her name's Rebecca, and Eileen becomes like infatuated with Rebecca, and it very much is so like a Hitchcock kind of thing. And again, this book kind of ended a bit abruptly. Like there was like all this build up, and then all of a sudden it's like whoosh, like all this like, you know, messed up stuff happens, and it's like, the fuck? So admittedly, I kind of would have wanted to see the ending drawn out a little bit more, but it still worked. I gave this book a 4 out of 5. It's like, I understand that like some characters are written to be detestable, but Eileen was just like insanely unlikable. Like I do try to do the thing where I try to relate to the characters, and I try to like, you know, find a piece of me in them, and I could not find a single part of me in Eileen. And it was a bit harder to connect to the story because I was so detached from her. But I feel like her like detestability and her being like a terrible person just sort of gave like this book like an extra bit of flavor. And again, I'm not saying that like people who are like, you know, in Massachusetts or like working blue collar jobs or in like a certain like, you know, income bracket, I'm not saying that they're terrible people. I'm just saying Eileen is a terrible person. All right, almost done. Holy moly. There was actually a day where I was like so close to finishing. That was maybe like this far from the end, and I actually stayed up late reading. Like, I don't remember the last time I stayed up late reading a book. Like that, it really pulled me in. It was wonderful. The last 2 books that I read were A Neon Darkness and The Infinite Noise, both by Lauren Shippen. These are both books based off of the Bright Sessions, a podcast about basically like people with supernatural abilities who go to therapy, and it's amazing. 4 out of 5, absolutely love them. The Infinite Noise is about Adam and Caleb and their relationship building, and it's told from like both sides, as opposed to like in the podcast you just hear from Caleb's side, but in this one you get Adam and Caleb's side of things, which is outstanding. Like the narration is just mwah. The Neon Darkness is about Damien and his backstory, like his origin story, and oh my god, Damien is like a character that is very flawed and is very much so like the antagonist and the villain, but he is so fucked up and so damaged. He obviously is just so unaware and like so unwilling to fix certain things about himself, and I just wanted to grab him at so many parts and just shake him and be like, fuck you. Like he just like the boy just wants to be loved, he just wants to be appreciated, and it's like I gained like such a deeper understanding for him as a character because of this book. And oh my god, he like that book just hits so different. It was so good. I 100% recommend it. And if you like the Bright sessions, and even if you, I mean, I sort of feel like if you listen to the Bright sessions, you'll have like a better understanding of it, but I feel like these books are written in a way that you can read them just on their own. I also read some manga. I read Chainsaw Man, which is great. It's about a guy who gets like turned into a chainsaw dude and he fights demons. And then I read Oyasumi Pun Pun. It's sort of like a little like coming of age, like of this kid, Pun Pun. Pun Pun Punyama. It's just like, it's like a kid in the world trying to figure himself out, but it's just written in a way that's like almost like bordering on surreal. It's magical. Like, Oyasumi Pun Pun, 5 out of 5. I cannot wait to read more of the series. Chainsaw Man, 3 out of 5. Very visually appealing. I definitely want to do a full armor build of that outfit. Do I hold up books for the thumbnail for this? Okay. This video was a lot longer than I intended it to be. I'm so sorry. Those were all of the books that I consumed in 2020. I am very much so looking forward to books that I'm going to read in 2021. I have already read a few. So far in 2021, I have read The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I read Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I started Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller today. And I am also currently reading Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I am very excited about those. Yeah, I have a whole bunch of other books on my to read and to listen to list. I'll probably make like a mid-year reading review thing, but I am most excited for A Court of Silver Flames because I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm excited. I read books in 2020 and I really hope that y'all read some good books in 2020. If you have recommendations or if you want to share what you read, what you liked, what you didn't like, if you disagree, if you agree with things that I have said in this video, please comment down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. Be nice, be civil, all that good stuff. I love and appreciate every single one of you who take time out of your days to watch my videos. I hope you are having a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful week, weekend, whatever part of the day or week you're watching this video at, and I will see you all in the next one, whenever that may be. Love you. Bye.